Hello, I'm Dr. Tiwari from Government College, Sri Ganganagar. Today we are going to discuss the element of realism in the novel Great Expectations written by Charles Dickens. So far as the plot or the events in Great Expectations are concerned, it is undoubtedly a realistic novel. The story and the incidents are perfectly credible. This does not mean that there are no improbabilities in the story or no unlikely occurrences. There are a number of incidents about which we feel doubtful or skeptical. But on the whole, the story is not only interesting but carries conviction. For instance, there is nothing improbable about the very first incident of the novel, dramatic or melodramatic or sensational though it is. A prison ship being moored in the river nearby. There is nothing incredible about a couple of convicts escaping from it and one of them finding his way into a churchyard and meeting the boy Pip there. Nor is there anything improbable in the entire narrative covering the early years of Pip up to the time of his departure for London. There is nothing improbable about an unknown benefactor engaging a lawyer to take charge of Pip and educate him in such a way as to make a gentleman of him. Similarly, there is nothing improbable about Pip's falling in love with Estella and her not responding to his love. The subsequent discovery that Pip's benefactor is not Miss Havisham, as supposed by Pip, but Magwitch, the convict whom he had met in the churchyard, certainly surprises us, but it is not contrary to the facts of human nature that a convict who has grown immensely rich should, out of a feeling of gratitude, bestow his patronage upon the lad who had supplied food and a file to him at a crucial moment in his life. Nor is there anything improbable about Magwitch's return to England. His desire to see the gentleman in the making of whom he has played such a vital role is perfectly natural, even though his coming back to the country involves a great risk. The attempt to smuggle Magwitch out of the country, the information supplied to the authorities by Compeyson, the capture of Magwitch, and the death of Compeyson in the course of Magwitch's struggle with him in the water, these are perfectly realistic incidents, especially when we think of the time to which they pertain. A time when crime was rampant in England. Nor is there anything improbable about the ending of the novel, even though the ending may not appear to some readers to be a logical outcome of what has gone before. Then there is the characterization in the novel. The principal character is Pip, and he is portrayed in such a manner that he strikes us as not only convincing and real, but as one whom we have met and known on terms of familiarity, and one whom we shall never forget. The portion of the novel dealing with Pip's childhood is a triumph of realism insofar as it fully conveys to us the sensitive nature of Pip, the ill treatment that he constantly receives from his sister, Mrs. Gargery, and from her friends, the sympathy that he receives from Joe, the fears of which he is a victim most of the time, the sense of guilt which affects him whenever he does any wrong. The portion of the novel dealing with Pip's career in his days of prosperity is equally realistic in portraying the change that has come over Pip. His general attitude of snobbery leading to his cold treatment of Joe and Biddy with a disregard for their feelings and his gnawing sense of guilt at the way he is treating his best well-wishers, the extravagant habits and the idleness and frivolity which Pip develops are also convincingly depicted. When Magwitch arrives, all of a sudden, Pip's aversion to him is perfectly natural. The subsequent devotion that he exhibits towards Magwitch is perfectly convincing also. And the transition from his initial repugnance to his subsequent love and affection for the man has skillfully been conveyed to us. Pip's friendship with Herbert and the actions that he performs for his welfare without telling him of what he has done have also been depicted in a realistic manner, like the development of his intimacy with Wemmick. There is nothing improbable at all about the infatuation of this sensitive young man for a beautiful though frigid girl, Estella. Pip's subsequent remorse and his eventually turning once again to Joe and Biddy for whatever comfort he can get out of life are also psychologically true. At the end, we find Pip a chastened man as a result of the unusual and sad experiences that he has gone through. The manner in which Pip has been portrayed is a tribute to Dickens's sense of realism, and the character of Pip is justly regarded as one of his supreme achievements. We watch the progress and development of Pip, a snob's progress as it has been called, with deep interest, and at no stage in the course of the story do we feel that there is anything in Pip's actions, feelings, or thoughts that is inconsistent with the general impression that we have formed about him. In fact, he is the one character in the novels of Dickens who really develops and who at the same time really lives. Nor is Miss Havisham eccentric, though she may be unconvincing. Certainly, there are women who are deserted by their lovers and who adjust themselves to the frustration which results from such an experience. Miss Havisham could not reconcile herself to the shameful manner in which she was treated by her faithless lover. It is therefore quite natural for her, mentally constituted as she is, to seek to avenge herself upon the entire male sex. There is no improbability in her having adopted a child and having determined to wreak her vengeance upon the male sex through the beauty and cold-heartedness of this child when she has grown into a young girl. The subsequent remorse of Miss Havisham is also a perfectly natural development, especially after she has come into intimate contact with a man like Pip. What is improbable is that Miss Havisham should really have succeeded in molding Estella into a thoroughly heartless girl, as if Estella were a figure of clay to be molded at her guardian's will. But even this improbability loses much of its improbable character when we remember that both Estella's parents were criminals and that a child of such parents would inherit a certain hard-heartedness which would only need some nurture by a person like Miss Havisham to develop into a monstrous cruelty. Whether such a hard-hearted woman as Estella has proved to be can afterwards become so gentle as she seems to be in the last chapter of the novel remains, however, a doubtful proposition. even though we are aware that she has suffered deeply and that, according to her own statement to Pip, her suffering has softened her. Then there are a number of characters who are not real in the conventional sense, but who are yet convincing. So convincing as to be unforgettable. Such are Jaggers and Wemmick. Jaggers is the able, highly competent, cold-hearted lawyer with only a slight human element in his nature. His eyes are always focused upon his case. He has certain mannerisms like biting his forefinger and is flourishing his white handkerchief at particular moments. He is somewhat harsh towards his clients, but he is not wicked or evil, and on the whole, he makes himself quite a likable person. Then there are Miss Havisham's relatives. And there is the Pocket household, and there is Mr. Barley. All these are caricatures. Miss Havisham's relatives are humbugs and Tories. Mrs. Pocket is a snobbish, foolish, absent-minded woman who is not even aware of there being a stool under her skirt when she sits on the ground. Mr. Pocket has a funny habit of raising himself from his seat by clutching his hair whenever he is mentally perturbed. Mr. Barley is an eccentric fellow, bedridden but noisy and boisterous all the same, and addicted to alcohol. Then there is one more figure whom we must not ignore, and he is the villain Orlick. This man is an embodiment of evil. However, it would not be fair to say that he is wicked for the sake of wickedness. Sufficient motivation has been provided by the author for the criminal actions that he performs or tries to perform. Scoundrels like him and compassion abound in this world. Then there are realistic descriptions of localities in the novel. There is a general agreement as to their authenticity. Not only are the marshes, the river, the forge, the small town with its population represented by persons like Pumblechook, Wopsley, Trav and Trav's boy vividly pictured, but the various London scenes are also described in a realistic and graphic manner. Thank you.